precepts, for example, do not kill, do not steal, do not commit a sexual misconduct, do not lie, etc. These are probably the most important item of mindfulness in Buddhism. It's a code of ethical conduct, prevent some unwholesome path to lead us to the life of contentment, happiness, and freedom. So traditionally, in Theravada Buddhism, to the lay person, 5 precepts or 10 precepts has been given in one Buddhism, depending on the level of practice, whether you are beginning practitioner or intermediate or advanced practitioner. 10 precepts is given. So Pat, would you read? Yeah. She will pick up 10 precepts from 30.
10 precepts of the ordinary grade. Do not consume intoxicants without due cause. Do not use harsh speech. Do not smoke tobacco without due cause. For the special faith, do not speak about the faults of others. Do not be obsessed by the pursuit of gold, silver, and precious gems. Do not be untrustworthy. For the battle of Dharma and Mara, do not be jealous. Do not be greedy. Do not harbor hatred. Do not be deluded.
Okay, thank you. They say precepts are the action of the Buddha. Scriptures are the words of the Buddha. And meditation is the mind and heart of the Buddha. Buddha lived pretty long until he's 79 years old. On the deathbed, one monastic asked, when you passed away, who would be our guide? Who would be our teacher? The Buddha said, 법 등명, 자 등명, literally means the precepts will become your guide. Precepts will become your teacher, and the light of your true nature will be your guide. That's one of the entrustment word by the Buddha. When practitioner entered the Buddhist faith, the initiation service is called in the Chinese 수계식. 수계식 literally means precepts receiving ceremony, which means this is very fundamental and the primary things. I usually use this analogy. Let's say that ball has a lot of water. Meditation practice is like calming down that water in order to make it without ripples. Then the moonlight can be reflected on the surface of the water. The wisdom and samatha concentration cannot be separated. But if this ball, if ginger moves the ball, how can we expect the water become very still? Our ethical conduct is the foundation of our spiritual cultivation, whatever forms of spiritual practice. When I say precepts, I do not know the English connotation of the word precepts, but it is not the commandment from higher power. It's an item of mindfulness. Why? Each and every action that we do with our words, with our thoughts, with our deeds, will lead us to some consequence. Sometimes it is wholesome, sometimes it is unwholesome. So I first, this world is operating under the principle of yin and yang. When it is applied to human affairs, it is called the karmic principle of cause and effect. This world, this universe is working, operating under that principle. So, for example, when you plant the apple seed, you will harvest what? Apple. When you plant the pear seed, then you will harvest the pear. That's obvious. When we hurt others, we will be hurt. When we still take the possession of some other people, something that belongs to us will be stolen. Very, very simple. It's a cosmic law. So Buddha said, even though 49 years, Buddha taught a lot of things, but even though you do not believe anything, but you better believe the karmic principle of cause and effect. Shakyamuni Buddha really emphasized. When our founding master first built the One Buddhism community in Iksan City, at that time, for the first time in Korea, the movie, motion picture was first brought. People watching that. It's very amazed. It's different from photos. So our founding master is said to tell, I really would like to show how people would receive blessings by observing the precepts, and how people receive some misfortune by breaking the precepts. There are so many paths to attain greater liberation or nirvana. But our third head, the Dharma master, said, whatever practitioners they are, they can be Muslim or Christian, they can be Buddhist, or they can be some atheists just practicing. But the path to liberation is always one. It is a threefold practice. Buddha said threefold samadhi, meditation or concentration, prajna, wisdom, shila, precept. Precept was translated as a ge in the Chinese. How does it look like? Yeah, literally means a gate bar, crossbar, board. It looks like a board. Without locking our door at night, we may not feel comfortable to sleep peacefully. Likewise, it is the path to move all kinds of thieves to come in our house, in our true nature. There is a Chinese saying, good medicine is not delicious, but it is good for our health. Good advice is against our ears, but it is good for our action. In older days, I still, from time to time, in older days, the medicine comes out in a liquid formula, very, very bitter. It's not like Western style pills, so probably That's why they say good medicine is bitter. Whether you like taking it or not, if you would like to get well, you have to take it in order to get your body become well and become more healthier. Buddha called himself Bhisakho, Sanskrit. Bhisakho means a great physician, king of medicine. Why? He said, all sentient beings are a patient in the sense whose mind is ill. Whose mind is, it does not mean we are mentally sick. It means lots of unwholesome elements in our mind. Not comparing mind to jealousy or resentment, anger, whatever things. We cannot control our mind freely. In that sense, the patience of the mind, so whether you like this bitter thing or not, just like observing the precepts, in order to become well, we have to take it. So Pat, would you read verse 25 and 42?
The life of a practitioner and the ladder to attain Buddhahood. Hence, you ought to observe precepts without fail, reflecting on the original vow. If you feel negligent due to the foolish demand of mind and body, the founding master said, true freedom comes when you refrain from self-indulgence. When you reject selfish desire, you receive great benefit. Therefore, a seeker of true freedom, first of all, strictly observes precepts. The seeker of great benefits, first of all, fosters public spirit.
When you read the principal book of One Buddhism, in chapter 14, the Dharma on suffering and happiness, our founding master says, on a daily basis, we experience happiness and suffering at the same time, usually half and half for regular people. But we practitioners need to think about whether this suffering or discomfort will turn into happiness in the future, or the happiness we are enjoying right now will transform into future misfortune. We need to distinguish and think about this aspect of suffering and happiness. So precepts are like setting up checkpoint in our mind, in our mouth, in our action. But today I would like to talk about the precepts related with some controlling our tongue. In One Buddhism, 5 precepts that's related with proper speech. It's like this. Do not use a harsh speech. Do not speak about the faults of others. Do not speak flowery and ingratiating words. Do not talk while someone else is talking. Do not make impertinent remarks. For example, last week, we say a lot of things to many people. Is there some words you would like to regret? I should have not spoken that. Probably there is. How many good relationship has been broken by careless or groundless talking? It's not our bad intention, but we tend to make a lot of mistakes by some improper speech, but we have to harvest the karmic consequence. Our founding master said that by saying even one thing or writing even one line, a person can give others either hope and peace or despair and turmoil. Thus, a person does not always commit transgressions because he is fundamentally bad, but will often commit the transgressions without realizing it because he does not understand the principle of what creates transgression and blessings. But would you read verse 39? Yeah.
The Master Chonsong said, "It is said, the mouth is the gate of calamity. But in fact, the mouth is the gate of both calamity and blessings. Use it wrongly, and the mouth becomes a gate of calamity. Use it well, and what a great gate of blessings it can become."
Thank you. One elementary school teacher in Korea conducted this experiment in order to teach those young children some mindful speech. She prepared 2 bowls of rice, steamed rice, the main diet in Korea for us. And they asked to the students, when you enter this classroom, to the right bowl, you can say some negative words, like, I hate you, you are ugly, something like that. To the other bowl of rice, you can say some blessing, compassionate word, you are beautiful, I love you, something like that. As it's a food, as in a couple of days, it's going to bad, the fungus start to be formed. It usually takes 2 days for the steamed rice go bad. To the bowl of rice, which was exposed with negative words, go bad very fast. It becomes very dark because of the fungus. The steamed rice that's exposed with the positive words can keep fresh for 3 or 4 days. So after those students actually saw the difference of the 2 bowls of rice, they become very mindful in their speech. Our speech has some energy. It has energy. It can encourage people, discourage people. It can give rise a great faith in others' mind, or it can weaken the faith of others, etc. So our mouth, our founding master's analogy is blowing horn. Is that American expression? Blowing horn, blowing bugle. When we say, sometimes when we say something, it creates some harmonious melody. Sometimes it creates some destructive music. Several years ago, when the Korean economy was in deep depression, one man, his business got bankrupt. So he lost all his business and eventually his house. And they had to move to a very small apartment, which was very, very inconvenient with their 2 children. And the wife has to work some extra hour. She's very, very tired. So they start to quarrel argue a lot, and they don't talk each other anymore, and the children also stopped studying at all. It started to become very, very messy. One day, the woman decided in her mind, wow, we cannot continue this kind of atmosphere in our house. I first have to do something to cheer up our family members. So she decided her mind, when I come back home, even though I'm very tired and resentful, but I should say something nice to my wife and to my husband and the wife. So one day, when she arrived to her house pretty late, she saw her husband was on the balcony of the apartment, the 7-story apartment. So she waved, honey, I'm home. And 2 years later, since she practiced mindfulness in proper speech, even though her heart was not in there, in her mind, she very intentionally say those things start to get better, and her husband's business started to prosper, and they eventually moved to the big house. Everything came to normal. And one day, her husband showed her a piece of a letter. Why don't you read this letter? When she read that, she realized it's a suicide note. Suicide note. That's tainted with the tears. Her husband said he wrote that 1 year ago, when he lost all his business and all things eventually come to his responsibility. That night, he would like to kill himself and go out of the balcony. At that time, when she approached to the apartment, she said, honey, I am home. After seeing that, he was encouraged. I should not end my life in this way. And he got encouraged and started his business. So with our word, we can kill or others or make people's life alive again. It has a lot of energy. When you see the Buddha image, Buddha statue, what's the characteristic? It's not the real Indian figure. Buddha image in China looks like a Chinese. The common characteristic is the Buddha has a very large ears, and his mouth is very firmly shut. So we need, my teacher told me, that's why we have one mouth and 2 ears. We need to listen to others' words as much as twice. Listen to others' words twice as much as we talk. One day Buddha walked in the forest, and one of his students picked up one branch which has some leaves. So Buddha asked him, why don't you count the number of leaves? So he counted the number of leaves. Buddha said, how many does that branch have? How many leaves does the branch has? But it's many, it's more than 40. Then Buddha asked again, could you count the number of leaves in this forest. So he said, it's so many, I cannot count. It's infinite almost. Buddha said, the Dharma that I talk through words is like the number of leaves on that branch. The Dharma that I talk in silence is like the number of leaves in this forest. As long as we talk a lot, we tend to make a mistake. As long as we, and also through our mouth, a lot of our energy, qi, is consumed. So let me read this item of mindfulness regarding proper speech one more time. Do not use harsh speech. Do not speak about the faults of others. Do not speak flowery and ingratiating words. Do not be double-tongued. Do not make impertinent remarks. Thank you.